Welcome to Learn the Sky, your online resource for learning.
My name is Janine, and in this video we will learn about the constellation known as Crux, and most oftenly called the Southern Cross. Crux is represented as the Southern Cross, and it's an ancient constellation. It was known by some cultures in the Northern Hemisphere, but by 400 BC it no longer rose above the horizon, and then sailed out of existence in the memory of those ancient Northern cultures. However, many non-Western cultures in the Southern Hemisphere recognize this constellation, including indigenous Australians, Maori, Javanese, Mapuche, Southern African nations, and many, many more. The name Crux is Latin for crossed, and it's the smallest of all the 88 constellations. It really has a deep cultural significance in many cultures in the Southern Hemisphere. So when can you see it? In terms of the Northern Hemisphere, you really need to be at tropical latitudes from 20 degrees and lower latitudes. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, it can be seen all year round from most places. However, this can vary depending on your location in the Southern Hemisphere. What you want to look for are the 4 stars that make a cross-shaped pattern in the sky. And this constellation can be used to help you find the South Celestial Pole. Again, I'm seeing that the emu from the indigenous Australian culture. I kind of see the shape of that bird right here. But the Southern Cross is located right here, and it can be used to help you find other constellations as well. It's located right next to Centaurus, and while the constellation of Centaurus may not completely stand out with all of its stars, the 2 stars that are important are right here. We have Alpha Centauri and then Beta Centauri. We also have this really cool globular cluster up here that looks like a star, but it's really a star cluster. And what's interesting is that this is Alpha Centauri, which is the closest star system to us. If we were to point out other constellations here, this yellow one right here is Centaurus. So Centaurus is represented as a centaur. So here would be the head, his arms, and then he kind of has this triangular body. Here are his legs, and then the hind legs as well. This one right here is Lupus, the fox. So use these different stars from the Southern Cross to help you find the rest of Centaurus. So here we are again. Are you able to find the Southern Cross? Hopefully, if you're able to see it, it's right here. And then the other 2 stars right here are from Centaurus. So we have Alpha Centauri, which is the brighter one, but it's being obscured by clouds. And then we have Beta Centauri as well. And if we want to get some more practice of what this looks like, here we have the 2 brightest stars of Centaurus, which is towards the left side, and then you have the Southern Cross towards the bottom right. So here it is. We have the Southern Cross right there, and if we were to point this out, you can kind of use this portion of the cross to kind of aim you in this direction of where those bright stars would be. And again, here's Alpha Centauri, which is actually a triple star system. It's really close, only a little over 4 light years away. If you were to draw a perpendicular line between the southern pointers, which are those 2 brightest stars in Centaurus, and then from the Gamma star down to the Alpha star, and you draw these imaginary lines, the point where they intersect is very close to the South Celestial Pole. So you can use these areas to help you find that particular spot in the sky. But of course, if you're living in the southern or in the northern hemisphere, you're not going to be seeing the South Celestial Pole. You really have to be in the southern hemisphere for that to happen. Here's another great photo. This is probably a little bit more of what you'll see in the sky. Using these 2 areas to help you find the South Celestial Pole, this is what we would do. You would take a perpendicular line from the southern pointers, aim it down, and then from the Gamma to Alpha star, and then this is kind of, I drew this on here, this is kind of very close to where the South Celestial Pole would be. looks like right there, and this is just an area that has really dense gas, so there are other stars that are behind it, maybe even within it, that just can't quite penetrate through the thickness of these clouds. And what's really interesting is the Coalsack Nebula is represented as the head of the emu in indigenous Australian cultures. So this is kind of a bird that shows up in many mythological stories. So here you have the Southern Cross, and then this would be the head of the emu, and then the neck goes down right here, and then this is like the body of the bird. So really, really interesting that this particular Coalsack Nebula is part of a larger representation of a mythical creature in the sky.